You're listening to Deliberate Living, a podcast that inspires, empowers, and encourages listeners to live life more authentically. My name is Holly Priestley, and I'm a full-time nomad and writer who has been living in my 1997 Ford van since January 1st of 2019. I travel the United States with my dog, learning how to live with more authenticity. I explore different ways people choose to ditch the prescribed life we've all been sold and live on their terms, finding freedom and happiness however they choose. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Deliberate Living podcast. I am your host, Holly Priestley, and this week I have not one but two guests in not one but two vans, and I have Loui and Bex. They are a mother-daughter team, and dogs, of course, and they have a really interesting story as far as like getting on the road and sharing housing, and I've been following Loui for a few months now and on Instagram, and she's always so just down to earth and honest about all the pros and cons of van life, and like traveling with her mom I think is awesome because I would love for my mom to come travel with me, but that's just not going to happen, so I will live vicariously through y'all. But hello to Loui and Bex. For the people who don't know you, can you give us a brief rundown of each of your stories to get to where you are today?
Sure, yeah. Thank you for having us, by the way. Yeah, I've been following you for a couple months now too, and it's been really awesome to listen to your podcast and see where you go and just see another perspective. So
Thank you so much.
Okay, I guess we'll go first. So I guess my van life journey started in college. I was living in Oakland, California, going to Mills College, and I was living with three other women in this apartment, and I was paying like $1,000 a month for rent. And then I was really into like tiny houses and stuff, like most people are. And eventually I came across van life on YouTube, and I was like, maybe I should just do this, like just go ahead and go get a van. And so the summer before my what year was that?
Senior year.
It
was the second semester of your junior year, I think.
Yeah. So I decided to just take that summer off and get a van, and I lived in my van for my last semester of college, and it saved me a lot of money. I think it was really cool. Like that was the part I didn't realize that would be a thing, is that I had so much financial freedom. So did that, and then I traveled around for a bit. I actually did a trip with my grandma. Not a lot of people know about this, but and I recorded it. Yeah, my grandma, she's gonna be 80 actually this year, but she was 78 at the time.
Oh my word.
And so I was working and living in my van, and then I was like, a friend invited us up to Vancouver, and we're like, why don't we just take the van up there? And I don't have those videos up on my YouTube channel anymore, but because I was just like, I'll take them down. Nobody's seen them, and
it was fun.
Yeah, so we did that, and I traveled for a whole summer. I saved stuff, and then came back and worked on a farm, and then I was like, so to be honest, because I'm always honest about things, I was like having sort of like a mental, like a time where things were really like rough for me mentally. So then I just lived in a house for like 6 months, and then I was like, you know what, I really love this. And then this is kind of where our stories intertwine, because I was like, I had a payment on my van, and I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this and have a place to like, work on my mental health and do all that. And you were living in this van, in Coco, the van I'm in now, for how many months?
I think it was like a month and a half or something, maybe.
Yeah, a month and a half. And then we were like sitting in Maribel, my mom's van, and we were like, why don't we just trade vans for the time?
It was like a light bulb all of a sudden went off, because we were talking about our needs and what we were going to do to like shift our direction. And so then we did a switch.
So then we did a switch, and then I was in the house for like 6 months at the beginning of the pandemic, which worked out really well. I'm really thankful for that. And you had to put your van through that, so that really helped. And then that ended up, that housing situation ended up dissolving because the landlord wanted to evict us because he wanted to take the property back. It was a whole thing. So then I was like, you know what? I've been wanting to get back on the road. Why don't I just take this van and build it out again? And then we were like, let's get on the road and travel together. So I guess that's where your story come in.
Well, and for me, I'd say my journey started like several years ago, just with like the fascination of minimalism and tiny living and all of that. But I had a younger kid. Loui was in college, but I also have a son who was not interested in van life at all. And so I waited till he graduated high school and, went off to college and stuff. So then I was like, I'm an empty nester. I could do whatever I want to. So and also a large part of it was being priced out of the rental market in Northern California. Yeah. And I just started getting tired of like constantly having to move and, being rejected by landlords and all of that kind of thing. So it was like, I think I'm just going to do it. And so that was kind of the push that I needed, even though I was fascinated, but I ended up doing it a little sooner than I was originally going to. But it's been the best decision. Oh, it's wonderful. And so, yeah. And then we've,
so that's the story of our vans and all of that.
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome. I think that's just the cutest stinking thing I've ever heard. And like my mom, my folks upgraded from like a pop-up to a Class C because they needed a little bit more space than the van, just for their needs and all of that. But every time I travel with her, I'm always like, this is the greatest. Why can't we just do this all the time? But of course, we drive each other crazy after about 5 minutes. So having your own space must be really quite nice for both of you.
Definitely.
And we definitely get on each other's nerves.
Yeah,
like
we have our moments.
We have a very good relationship, but I think that we have our moments where we're tired or burnt out on traveling or
we're PMSing or something.
And we but we always get over it.
We're fortunate enough that when Loui was at home before going off to college, we grew up close, together.
And we've always been into this kind of like alternative lifestyle kind of thing, and I think it was really just birthed out of having to move around a lot and just idea of paying rent money when we're like, we want to own something, and we've always talked about that, whether it's like land or a school bus, like just we would play around with these ideas, and it's kind of crazy because we're actually
now it's happening.
It's happened.
And we've been traveling now for 9 months. It's now 9 months. We started out in Northern California and have worked our way kind of north and through the country.
Been kind of swiveling up and down.
Yeah, and then we went down.
Our goal is to see all the states. We want to be able to say that we've seen all the states.
Yeah. So how many are you at right now?
I think we have like 13 you have a few more than I do, but it's like 13, 15.
Yeah. I'm at 35 that I've been to, so 15
Hawaii
more.
And Alaska, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mentioned working your way up the East Coast, you're gonna knock off a bunch more because those states are so small that you
it's gonna be
like multiple in a day if you wanted to.
You're like, all right, let's do it.
Pros and cons. When you get out here on the west side of the country, as you both know, the states are much bigger, and so trying to drive one state in a day can be exhausting. But on the East Coast, you can just knock them off.
You just be like, I'm done. But Texas is one of those states where you feel like you're driving forever. Just like, oh my gosh, when are we gonna get to the next state? That's beautiful.
Like, are we still in Texas? Are we still in Texas?
Exactly.
Are we still in fucking Texas? Absolutely. So I want to ask you both this question, but Loui, you first, since you started with the van first. You both kind of got into the van life the same way. Housing in Northern California was like, no thanks, very expensive. And you had toyed with the idea of, tiny houses and alternative living before, but when you finally made that like transition from living in an apartment with 3 other women to living in your van with your dog, was there any time when it was like, oh shit, what have I done? Or was it all just like, oh, why haven't I been doing this since the beginning? This is so easy.
It's definitely a little of both. Like, I think the financial freedom was the moment where I was like, yes, this is awesome. Like, I love it. But I'm thinking of one particular time in like the first 3 months of living in the van, I got a horrible nosebleed because it's cold in the world. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, I didn't have power, like a very reliable source of power. And I was like really tired working all of this stuff in the city. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, why am I like allowing this to be so hard? But then but then like you go back to things like, oh, it's the financial freedom. It's the fact that on the weekend I can go drive out to the mountains and forget about all of my life in the city. And so it's definitely a little bit of both. Yeah. Had those moments a lot.
I'd say for me too. It took me about 6 months for it to really hit me. The freedom, like, especially we were in the middle of the pandemic, and people are losing their jobs. And I was so fortunate. I own a virtual assistant business. And so my business was building and I didn't have to pay rent. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
It hits you.
It just hit me all of a sudden, like, I'm the luckiest woman ever. But then you have the days where
what a convenient business to have already had, and then the pandemic like actually helped throttle you.
So I mean, lucky. That was definitely all of the planets were lined up for me with that. But then you have your moments, where like you haven't had power for a few days and it's like,
especially in the winter with the clouds and everything. It doesn't really matter what part of the country you're in. I've been in Arizona, and it's like, the sunniest place to be in the winter, but we still, have weeks where it's just gray and overcast and the solar panels are not doing their job as well as I would prefer them to be doing. But I mean, then you trade that off. You trade off the financial freedom. You trade off, being able to drive to better weather, or if your batteries are hooked up to your inverter, you got that option too. Like, I mean, you got options.
And just just being able to experience life, because I felt like living in the apartment, like my path was going to be probably working in like tech or something like that in Silicon Valley, and I was like, I really don't want to do that and be stuck in that. So it's like the trade-off, like it's like I could either do that or that. You just have to remind yourself of that a lot of the time. What could I be doing instead?
And when you were a kid, younger, we were always pretty adventurous. We would take road trips and, somewhere for a week and explore, and we were always moving, homes. So I don't know, we're kind of nomadic people, just
by nature.
And I'd say my son is less nomadic, just he really appreciates more stability. And so he's doing his own thing and, has his own apartment and things like that now, but we're hoping to convert him.
I mean, he's also struggling with the rent up in Northern California right now too. And, he just works a minimum wage job and he's trying to go to school and he's like, I don't know how I'm going to make this work. And it just really sucks to see locals being pushed out of that area. It really sucks.
And he is, we think he might be considering Vanlife. Not because of, like, for us, it was kind of like, Vanlife. For him, it's more like, oh,
it's a necessity.
This is maybe my only option. Kind of.
It's a lot for a lot of people, especially in Sacramento in the Bay Area.
Which is unfortunate. So.
I have a number of friends who live over in that area, who started out in Vanlife or in Vanlife now as a result of the cost of living. And I know that some parts of the city have, like, I don't know, parking lots especially for vanners or something like that. Some of my friends have mentioned, but like the rising cost of living is just not being matched by minimum wage jobs or really anything else. So it's not sustainable for most people unless you're working in tech or something. But even then, like, sharing an apartment and spending that much money on a shared space is kind of wild.
Something's gonna have to change. It feels like a bubble that's about to burst.
And it is changing rapidly. I mean, more and more people are living in some sort of vehicle, whether it's a car or a van or whatever. So, and that's kind of fascinating, that it's you can see the
going back to our roots as humans.
One of the things that I really love about following your journey is how, like I said before, how like authentic and down to earth and honest you guys are about, like, this lifestyle is great and also it sucks sometimes. And I think that online, on YouTube, on Instagram, you get a bunch of those #Vanlife, #blessed, everything is wonderful all the time, I'm always in the magical places. But then, we also have like films like Nomadland, I think, which show a totally different side of living in a van. And you guys, I think, do a really good job of showing like the merge of the two. Like it is luckily, you know, the privilege of having the choice of living in a van, but also like choosing to live in a van because you didn't necessarily have the ability to pay NorCal prices. And how do you guys balance like wanting to show how cool everything is and life is so awesome, and but also like be real about it? How do you maintain your realness? It's so cool.
Oh, well, thank you. That is something that we really like when we have discussions about like what we want to show. We're like, let's just show what was really happening. Like, of course, in videos and on social media, you can't show every little thing you do, but I think when we're having bad moments, we're gonna just show it. Like, I think that we've kind of, I mean, for me personally, I've not caring to say, because it's like, well, I'm just sharing my experience. Like, sometimes it's negative and it sucks. I don't want these negative experiences to happen, but I'm going to share it because, and not saying everyone's going to have the same experience either, you know? But
I think we feel like it's important to share authentic lives, you know, like, because there are so many people who are thinking about getting into van life. And I know when I was doing research, it was always like, oh, you know, this ideal, like, oh, this perfect life. And
that's what I thought too. I thought my van had to be perfect when I moved into it.
And also I think that's why I think it's so great that Loui is showing she's living in a minivan, you know, and anybody can do it in any vehicle if you want to, and you can be happy. Sure, it's gonna suck sometimes, but you know what?
It's not easy, that's for sure.
No, and if you go into it knowing that, and that's the important thing, and that's why we show the reality of it, because if you go into it knowing it's not going to be peaches and cream all the time, but you know what, like a good percentage of it is, you know.
And that's why we always like to say, like, if you have any vehicle that you can get out in, even if it's like a tent in your car, like to do, because I feel like personally, if I had seen people doing that, I would have saved a lot more money. I wouldn't have taken a loan out on the van that my mom has now. I would have done it way simpler. I would have gotten a cheap car and just saved up my money while doing it. And I think that that barrier to entry is like really important to break down, because there's so many people who need to do it and like want to get out of the cycle that they're in, paying rent. And so I just want people to feel like they have us to, you know, confide in.
And I'm the perfect example. When I first got into van life, I was like, well, okay, what kind of vehicle do I want? At first I wanted a bus, and then you know, like, no. And then Loui was like, why don't you go small, you know, go small and affordable. And that's why
what I wanted to do. I was like, I should have done that.
And I could not get a loan. I couldn't get a loan for a vehicle for the van that I wanted. And so that's why I went with Coco, this minivan, and and then it just worked out perfectly. You know, we were able to switch, and it meets our needs and things like that. But a lot of people can't get a loan, you know.
It makes it hard. Or like you're paying so much rent that you don't you can save like $50 a month and that's it. And it's like, just gotta break out of that cycle somehow.
That's how I ended up in the van that I have. I wasn't looking at anything like brand new off a lot at a dealership or anything like that, but I figured I could at least qualify for a tiny little loan, and then you know, get something that was a little bit older but still in that, you know, big white van family, Sprinters, ProMasters, Transits, etc. And then I like found the van that I wanted. It was an old like Dodge Sprinter, and it had been like half built out, and everything about it was great, but I had to get a little bit of a loan to get it, and I didn't think I would have a problem getting one, but I did. And then I was like, well, shit, now I have to totally redo my whole plan. And I ended up in the van that I'm in now, for much, much less money, like paid in cash. I put a little bit of the build on a credit card, but I paid that off within a couple of months. And I mean, I am a huge advocate of start small and affordable. Especially if you're doing it for that financial freedom. Like, you don't need as much as you think you do. Like, my van is too big for me, for sure. But like,
so cute
I
though.
like it. And it works.
It's your baby.
Isn't it funny how once you start living small, when I went from Coco to Maribel, I was like, oh, this is a mansion. What am I gonna do with all this space? It was so amazing. And now I really cannot imagine living in like a huge place, or like where I lived before, you know, how I lived, not that we were living like in mansions, but I don't know, just small is enough for me, you know?
For me too. I think that, you don't need a lot. You really don't.
No, you need a lot less than you think you do. And like, even still, like living in a van, I still find that like I need less than I have. So I'm constantly in like a revolving door of like taking stuff to thrift stores like all the time. It's never over.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's just so crazy, like, or it's so wild how you accumulate so much stuff over time. You're like, how did I get this stuff?
It's like a human thing. It's like, it's weird. Even in small spaces, it's like, how do I have this much stuff already?
It's wild. It doesn't make any sense. It's just like vans or houses, people are just like magnets for stuff.
Yeah,
you don't necessarily know where they all came from. Like, you know, it's kind of that decluttering, the minimalism is never like a one-stop shop. It's never like one job and then you're done. It's a constant process.
You always think about it. Thinking about what you're doing. That's the thing I want to get better at, for sure.
I feel like living more simply allows for that too, you know. It's like not having to have the burden, so as many burdens as you do in like a you know, class or traditional lifestyle. You know, we're able to think more about like, I don't know, the pot that you're bringing, the pot or pan that you're bringing into your house. Where is it coming from? Or, you know, I don't know.
I get this used? You know, is this made out of good materials? And that's something that
putting more thought in what we do every day. It gives us the freedom, but
definitely not perfect.
No, but and it's a struggle.
We're so not perfect
at
all.
No. And it's a struggle. It really is, because it, like you said, minimalism is like, it's it's a work in progress, you know. And I'm not anywhere near a minimalist for sure, but I'd like to become more of one.
So, it's a journey. William is sitting on top of
he just shifted.
That's okay.
Now you can probably really get him breathing.
Okay, William.
No, I think you're good.
Okay, good.
You ladies have mentioned a few times the financial freedom that comes with living on the road, living in your vans. Can you talk a little bit about how you make money on the road and what your expenses look like now compared to what they looked like when you were living in Northern California, one of the most expensive places on earth?
For real. Oh my gosh. So I guess to start, currently, I did have more clients that away a little bit, but I was doing like podcast editing and video editing and like social media stuff for people. But now I just have one client, and I've kind of pushed them away to focus more on my YouTube channel. So that's mainly, and thankfully I don't have to spend a lot of money each month now. And so that's really been sustaining me, thankfully. And but yeah, basically all I pay now is rents, food money, gas money, and depending on how far we go, gas money I'll have to spend a month. That's usually like maybe like $100 a month, maybe I'm like 100 to 200, depending on how far we're going.
We haven't really tracked it, the gas.
But. And then compared to in the Bay, oh my gosh, groceries were so expensive. Paying for like Ubers or Lyfts to get places, because I lived out in East Oakland, and so to get to anything you had to, you know, take the bus or an Uber, and that would take hours to get places. It was like a whole event to get groceries. And then rent, $1,000. Like that's pretty much how much I spend every month now, and my budget is $1,000, and that's what I was paying in rent and utilities and internet. So yeah.
That's a huge load off, I'm sure. That's a really big reduction in, you know, like basic living expenses, like just housing, and now it's like everything.
It really feels amazing when you can be like, you know what, I can buy that burrito today. Like I have a burrito for lunch. Like that's how bad it was for me there. Like I had to think about, could I eat an $8 burrito today, like or do I need to go and get groceries and like figure things out?
Been there, done that.
Totally.
And I own my own business. I'm like I said, I'm a virtual assistant, and have several clients, which is wonderful. And I'm actually hoping to I'm working on building my business so that I can have some subcontractors as well. So that's kind of a work in progress. Yeah, it's exciting.
It's been so cool seeing her build this business, because she's always talked about being like a boss,
yeah,
like owning her own business, being an entrepreneur, and like seeing it. Yeah, like she's really definitely my role model. Just seeing you build all of that up.
Yeah,
it's just really cool.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Thank you.
It's inspiring.
Well, and it's given me obviously it's given me the freedom to be able to, travel. I'm not stuck in the there's nothing wrong with that, but there's a lot of positives to being obviously able to travel. So yeah, and I was paying like $1,400 a month for a studio, a large studio with like a loft and stuff. But and now, I mean, I have similar expenses, gas, and I do have a car payment, but I'm going to be paying that off soon. I'm hoping in a couple months. Yes.
Woo-hoo!
Oh my gosh,
so close.
That'll be a happy dance day. And yeah, and just food and, phone, obviously running business stuff and things like that. But really, it's definitely 1,000 or under.
And we're like able to save money now too.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we're
relieving.
We're so fortunate to
nice.
have opportunity,
So fortunate,
Yeah, like I definitely recognize my fortune, and I'm so grateful every day really to just be free I wish everybody could experience the feeling of not the burden of like drowning in debt, and I do have a little bit of debt that I'm paying off, but being able to do this is giving me the ability to pay it off more quickly.
Yeah.
And I think that a reason why having podcasts like yours and YouTube channels and things like that show the reality, the day to day, like, what you can, and so if somebody really wants to be financially free, they can do it. It's for everybody, no matter what ethnicity you are, no matter where age, no matter where you come from, you can do it if you allow yourself to be open to it,
Yeah, fully fully agree. I think that, as you said, I think it's very important to point out, like, yes, you do have a little bit of a loan that you're paying off, but you're actually able to pay that off even quicker, even faster, and like realize that I can't wait for the happy dance day. I'm going to celebrate with you guys from wherever the fuck I happen to be. But I think that, we have all of these, I don't know, scripts from society about how you have to go to work to like pay for whatever it is you're paying for that maybe you don't even want. And, but then when you simplify, you're giving yourself the financial freedom, but you're giving yourself the, that ability to see your fortune and like appreciate more, and like more of that time to like simplify your days and like enjoy the weather, or go for a walk, or, hang out with your family. Like, that's so cool.
It's so beautiful. It really is. And just, it helps so much with like emotional freedom and psychological freedom. It all plays
and to know
a
what's
role.
happening in the world, even, because I feel like so many of us are so distracted by like just trying to get by. We don't know what's happening like in the world really at all. What's happening around us.
We definitely are able to live a more rich and satisfying life because of this lifestyle. And traveling with my daughter is such a
really great.
It really is.
And it's really nice to be able to share it with people. So.
It really is. And, just for like the safety factors, being a woman, on the road, like I have so much more confidence because we're traveling together.
That is definitely a benefit. I think when I did some traveling solo, it does get kind of nerve-wracking when you're by yourself and you're like, okay, like something could really happen to me. And I like to go out into the forest and like be out in the middle of nowhere. And so that's always in the back of your head. So I'm really grateful that we're like into doing the same things.
Yeah, me too. It's such a gift. Really awesome. And the fact that Loui is documenting it is even more exciting because I mean, like, this is like a legacy for, if she decides to have children or, and that's cool.
Yeah,
it is cool.
That's very cool.
I think your story is going to be so like a legacy for more than just your family. For anybody who wants to travel at any age, in any size vehicle, with any size dog, because your dog is not a little dog. You don't have like
yeah, he's a big
he
boy.
requires
that you can just like tuck under your arm. Like, he's a big boy.
Yeah, so making sure he's getting out and about. Yeah. Yeah.
My dog has always been a good what's the word? I don't know, benefit to my mental health, because I mean, unconditional love and all of that, but also because she requires like exercise and care, and like she has to go outside, so I have to go outside so that she can go outside, and I have to take care of her, which makes me take better care of myself. And
I agree with you 100% on that. It's the best.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Dogs are like the best medicine.
They are. They
We're
really
dog people.
are best friends, really.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine not having a dog. I just can't.
Yeah.
And particularly my dog, Lee. And William. William is a hand, this one. Oh my gosh. He's the center of the attention, like, no matter where we are.
Might as well just change the YouTube channel to Adventure Time with him.
I know, really.
Who even cares about Loui and Bex anymore? We just want to
I know, really.
It's about William.
It's about William. And I think people would be okay with that, because people do love William.
That's hilarious.
He could have his own channel. Just for dog life. Prince William dog life. Dog life.
Seriously.
You guys have an idea of what your future in the vans look like, whether it's for the next few months, or do you see yourself doing this for a very long time, or what does the future look like for y'all?
Well, I think we'll be nomadic in some capacity forever, whether that's together or not. I know that you want to have a spot to settle down eventually, but we're planning on traveling for the next summer, for the summer and the fall, and kind of reevaluate then.
We're just open to anything, you know. And I agree, no matter what, we're going to be nomadic to some extent. For me, I'm a little older, so it's not like I'm old, but it would be really nice to have like a base camp, and then home base, and then be able to travel from there. If the borders ever open,
one day
it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen probably this year, maybe next year.
Fingers crossed.
The cool thing about it is that it's kind of pushing us to explore this country more. Like, I don't know if we would have done this trip through the South.
I agree.
The borders have been open, we probably would have gone to Mexico, or so just good in everything, I guess.
I mean, and this country is so vast, isn't it? It's like everywhere we go, we're like, what? We're just amazed at how. And even in one state, like one region is so different than another region.
All the different biomes, and culture and history. It's just like, what?
We live in a wonderful, wonderful country.
There's so much more here than we realize. And I mean, I've been traveling in the same state for months now, and there's still so much of it that I haven't seen. There's so many hikes that I haven't done. There's so much history that I haven't learned. And this is not my first winter in Arizona, and like, it's just, I feel like I could live here for 20 years and still not know everything about it.
It's so cool.
It's exciting.
It's so fun. Keeps the adventure going.
Definitely.
So what advice would each of you give to your younger selves? Pre-van selves maybe on the cusp of making the change but not really sure about it yet?
I would say I'd say maybe like go with the flow more, because I had this idea that living nomadically, living in a van had to be a certain way, and I'd say go with the flow more. And
I would have done this when my kids were young. I would have been nomadic on the road with young kids. Definitely. Exploring the country.
Well,
that's probably he's like, I gotta be in there. I think that's probably the only thing.
He's like, my turn to
I know.
Say hi.
I think that's probably the only thing I would have done differently, is I would have just done it sooner. And been more brave.
Being on the road with 2 young kids would probably have been a very different experience.
Probably.
For real.
And 20 something years ago, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many more resources now. It's insane. Yeah.
I'm constantly wondering like how the original hippies did it. Like they didn't, I use the internet so much for scouting out where I want to go next, but also for like basic stuff like van repair or like how to find a good mechanic in whatever area I'm in or whatever. Like I don't know how people did it before the internet. I have no idea. They were way more resourceful than I am.
And being able to like telecommute now, and like there's just so many options for it, so it just makes sense.
Yeah. And back then they just did it because they didn't know any other way. So yeah.
I commend them. They're the real MVPs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
So if people wanted to come follow you along your journey, maybe support your journey, see the videos y'all are putting up, where would they go to do that?
So for my YouTube channel, you can find me at Adventure Time Loui, and it's also Adventure Time Loui on Instagram. And I just started a Patreon, and we do some really cool stuff over there. I've been doing some live streams in different cities. Like we'll do a walk and just then post. So that way it can be kind of fun. Yeah, good.
Oh, excuse the vehicle in the background.
That's okay.
Yeah, so you can there and
yeah. And for me, I have a new YouTube channel that I've just started. It's called Out Seeking Rainbows.
Okay.
And so
she's so excited.
Yeah, so that's on YouTube, and then also on Instagram, Out Seeking Rainbows with underscore in between the words.
All right. And I will link to all of that in the show notes as well. But again, thank you so much to both of you for, well, all three of you really, for being here and for participating in this. I'd love to have you on again in the future. I've got some specific episode ideas maybe we could talk about. But I'm just so grateful to see other women on the road and doing it differently, doing it your own way. And William, of course. And how authentically you guys share the pros and the cons, and you're making it very accessible for so many people. And I am just really grateful for more accounts like yours.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thanks for having
us on and sharing our story with everybody.
Yeah,
of course. And to anyone who's listening, watching, reading, however you're consuming the podcast, if you got something out of this episode, if you could give it a thumbs up or 5 stars, whatever it is on the platform that you're consuming it, that helps it get seen by the algorithms so that more people can hear these stories and get this information. If you want to help offset some of the costs that go into producing the podcast and keeping it ad-free, you can do that via Venmo or PayPal. That is also linked in the show notes. And tune in next week for another excellent episode. And don't be afraid to move out there a little bit and get your own deliberate life more underway. But we'll see you next week. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
We've reached the end of this episode of Deliberate Living. You can find the show notes and everything we referenced over on my website, and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts on YouTube, or sign up for email updates every time something new is published. I'll see you next time on Deliberate Living, and until then, keep your life on the DL too.